Okay, so we're at Module 9 now, so we're getting close to the end of our discussions now. So we're at Module 9. We're going to be continuing our discussion on lighting and rendering. This time, nasa ano na tayo? Part 3 na tayo, which is going to be mood lighting na, no? So, while in a sense, mood lighting, halos hindi nyo naman siguro napapansin na to, no? But more or less, nagagawa nyo naman na to, no? So, back when I was discussing our first discussion in lighting and rendering, tinuturo ko sa inyo na when you're gonna be doing a render, no? When you're gonna be doing your render and you're trying to figure out what kind of lighting you want to do for said render, isipin nyo muna kagad yung setting na yon, no? So, once naisip nyo na yung setting, dito na papasok yung si mood lighting nga, no? Dito na natin figure out paano natin gagawa ng tamang mood lighting yung ano natin. Paano natin bibigyan ng tamang mood yung scene natin to really get what we want, no? Sure, yung tinuro ko sa inyo last time is, yun nga, lalagay tayo ng external light when, let's say, nasa labas yung ilaw natin and papasok siya sa window. That's one way of doing mood lighting, no? We're already setting up lighting from an external source para yun nga, mapansin kagad ng viewer na, okay, it's going to be like that, no? Yung pwede siya maging morning, pwede siya maging nighttime. It entirely depends kung ano yung pinapakita doon sa lighting mo. So, in the case of our new discussion today, when it comes to mood lighting, aside from yun nga, yung una kong tinuro, ang gagawin naman natin ngayon for mood lighting is other types of light tricks. No? More on light tricks tayo and another set of light objects or light functions na pwede nyo magamit to really set the mood. No? More or less, ang ituturo ko sa inyo ngayon, how to properly display a morning or ano tawag dito, or medyo nasa sunset, no, or different time of day natin except sa night, no, because more or less kasi ang morning natin, that's probably morning or basically any sort of daytime, ang pinakamahirap talaga na makuha ang tamang mood lighting natin. But with this discussion, we're gonna be figuring out paano natin magagawa yon as simple as a few button clicks, no, compared sa ginagawa natin last time. Of course, you're gonna have to apply then yung ginawa din ng last time, yung of course maglalagay ka ng actual na external light source, because yung way natin na pagturo ko ngayon with the first technique natin ng mood lighting, it's a little bit weird, no, in terms of how it is rendered, no. Aside from that, we're also gonna be doing some dramatic na mga effects natin dito, no. Magbibigay tayo ng almost dramatic ambience natin for nighttime settings or something where super dense ang environment nyo. Like for example, a wooded area, no? Or pwedeng nasa dusk or dawn yung natin yung setting na yon. Mamaya ipapakita ko sa inyo kung ano yung specific na tawag natin doon and kung anong specific na purpose niya noon sa mga renders natin. Of course, we're also going to be doing yung mga neon lights natin, which is probably the most easiest one to do, no? However, in terms of 3ds Max kasi, neon lights, sure, while yes, technically possible naman talaga siya, medyo questionable din kasi yung binibigay niya na results sa atin. But, it is still a good technique or good light application na pwede nyo magamit sa mga scene nyo if you're planning to create certain cyberpunk na mga natin, na renders natin, or something with a more futuristic vibe, no? So, with all that out of the way, nandito naman na lahat na yan. And again, if you want to follow along yung demo natin, meron naman ako dito sa week 9 natin. Nandito yan, demo model, no? Or you can use basic primitives lang natin dito, no? It doesn't really matter because gagamitin lang natin tong demo model natin dito as a sort of subject, no? Para mabigyan lang natin ng lighting yung scene natin, okay? So, with that out of the way, start na tayo ng discussion. Okay, so our first order of the day, ang unang muna yung di-discuss ngayon is basically setting up the easiest way to get the right mood, no? So basically what we're gonna be doing is we're trying to change yung mood color lang natin, or basically yung ambient light na tinatawag nga natin, or mood light, whatever you want to call it, no? After that topic, ang next naman natin na i-discuss is basically setting up naman yung mga mesh lights natin. Gagawa tayo ng mga basic na neon lights and ano yung mga pwedeng gamitin natin ng quote-unquote na mesh lights nga natin. And then, after that, continue onwards tayo with making light projectors, no? So what we're going to be doing for the light projectors is we're going to be using a light and then magpa-project tayo ng image of our own choosing. And then, lastly, is going to be a bit of a surprise. It's called Volumetrics na yun. But it's a case natin in terms of output. We're gonna be making things a little more dramatic, no, in terms of ambience sa ating scene, okay? So again, if you want to follow yung demo natin, just download yung demo model natin dito, which is this one lang to, no? This is the chocolate tart. Na ang iniba ko lang naman dito is the overall na platform yan, no? So you can still use yung platform doon for this demo. Pero pwede nyo rin ibahin, kayo bahala, no? This is just a demo. You're not going to be using this one for your Activity 9, okay? So, with that out of the way, start na tayo with our first discussion, which is, again, setting a quick mood sa ating lighting, no? So, to do that, no? Again, basic na tinuro ko sa inyo, gawa na kayo ng isang light source to act as your main source of light buong sa nyo, dun sa buong scene nyo. Usually, madali natin makuha yon if we're gonna be doing an interior render, dahil yun nga, we can actually see kung meron tayong window dun sa interior shot natin. Kapag may interior shot tayo na may inclusion ng window dun, definitely napakadaling makakuha tayo ng mood lighting na gusto natin dito, because majority of time sa mga interior renders natin, nakikita na kagad natin yung time of day or setting dun sa window pa lang natin, no? But let's say sa case naman ito, we don't have an interior shot. We have a sort of product shot na rin dito, more or less, no? Or let's say we have an exterior shot. Medyo maiiba na yung process natin dito, because more or less, ang mangyayari dyan, gagamit pa rin kayo ng basic na light object to act out as your main source of light, para yun yung maging mag-set ng mood lighting nyo. But what if I tell you na there's a more proper way to do that, no? Specifically, ang gagawin natin dito is changing our environment, okay? So there are gonna be two ways yung pag-change nating environment. Yung first way, ito yung ituturo ko ngayon, no? Because ito lang yung pre-built-in kay 3ds Max. Yung second way naman natin dito is yung tinatawag natin environment maps, which, don't worry, ituturo ko rin yan, pero next meeting na, no? So, stick lang muna tayo dun sa basic na option ni 3ds Max, no? Which is changing our environment color, okay? But first, tingnan muna natin kung ano itsura ng render natin, no? So, let's just press render dito para makita lang natin, no? So, currently, ito yung ko. Ito lang yung iniba ko lang dito. As you can see, wala pa tayong any sort of lighting whatsoever dito. Nandito lang yung subject ko and nandito lang yung site ko, no? So, with my case here, I want to set this one to a different kind of mood, no? Siguro, if you want to go for a sort of daytime na mood, pwede natin gawin natin much lighter na color. Kung nighttime, medyo cooler, no? Not completely black, but a little bit cooler yung temperature natin, no? So to do that, para makita lang natin directly kagad yung result na gusto natin, let's just downsize this one, and gagawin natin dito sa ating viewport. Let's go back to our perspective view, no? Balik tayo kay perspective view. Press natin P, and then while in our viewport, press natin C8 to go to our environment and effects, no? So if you still remember from our photometric discussion, ito rin yun. Press 8 lang for environment and effects. This time, ang gagawin natin dito, diretso tayo sa common parameters. Dito sa may background, as you can see dito, ito yung background color natin. Now, mapapansin nyo, tingnan nyo natin sa viewport camera natin, no? Ang zooming out, pansin nyo, no? Ang alam natin, ang void natin, that is color black, no? Kapag yung outer environment tayo, kapag wala tayong any sort of environment dito na literal na 3D environment, all we're gonna be seeing is black, no? So, we want to try and avoid that, no? But of course, meron din tayong purpose para dyan, no? Basically, ang ginagawa naman natin dito sa void natin, by default, it's always going to be a black or gray color, which is not exactly good, no? Kasi yun yung representation ng void. But, see what happens if I try and change the color. Now, tingnan nyo itong color natin. And then, let's try to set it to color white. Okay? Let's set it to color white. And then, let's press OK. Now, as you can see, dito sa render naman natin, naging white yung natin, di ba? Naging white yung background natin. It's still the void, no? Though, don't get me wrong. But, tingnan nyo naman mabuti kapag nilipat ko siya dun sa camera ko. Okay? See what happens dito sa buong render ko, okay? I'm gonna be resetting it back to black again and see the difference between the two, no? So this is our first one, ito yung black na background color. See what happens kapag ginawa ko namang siyang white. I'm slowly going to bring it down to white, no? Para makita nyo. Now, there. As you can see, no? if you look closely dito sa render natin, nagkaroon tayo ng shadows compared dun sa black na color natin dito sa ilalim ng plate, no? Kapag black yung color natin, there's no shadows, it looks flat. Pero pag nilipat natin siya to a somewhere lighter, no? Or this case, white color, nagkaroon tayo ng shadow na effect dito sa ating scene, no? So that is the easiest way to basically set up a mood, no? Of course, hindi pa masyadong hindi niyo pa masyadong makikita yung desired effects natin dito because number one, wala pa tayong actual na light source, no? While makikita nyo dito sa scene natin na itsurang may light source tayo, using the background color alone is not enough to really light up a scene. Kailangan talaga ng external na light source. So, kailangan nyo ng light objects para makita nyo yung actual na result dito sa ating scene natin. Because as you can see naman, no? Doon sa texture pa lang natin, it looks flat, no? Nagkakaroon tayo ng noise because yun nga, more or less parang nag-act din naman siya as a somewhat of a light source but not a major light source yung background color natin. Tingnan naman natin, lagyan na natin siya ng light, no? So we're gonna be using lights and then let's just use a basic Arnold light na lang muna. And let's use a basic na quad light, no? So lagay tayo dyan. And then, itapat lang natin siya dito sa ating scene, no? So, dito pa lang, as you can see right here, no? We don't have an interior, we don't have any sort of natin dito. Meron lang tayong basic na light source lang tayo dito, no? Wala tayong any sort of complex scene na nagbibigay natin dito because we only have a cyclorama and we only have a basic product, no? So, ang ginagawa na lang natin dito, since nakuha naman natin yung gusto natin na mood para sa scene natin dito, ang magiging next step nyo na dito is giving the light source, giving your scene the right light source it needs, no? So basically, susuportahan na natin yung ating background color natin kanina, no? But in most cases kasi, ang mangyayari dito sa workflow natin, once you have your light source, once you have your background color, yung background color na yon, siya ang magsusuporta dito sa main na light source natin dito. So, dito na kayo, saka na kayo maglagay ng mga kung anong gusto nyong mga light na objects. So, gusto nyo, kung gusto nyong bigyan ng quad light for a very simple na light object lang dito, pwede. Kung para maging lang natin dito, maging accurate yung mga shadows natin dito. Because, if you look closely, no, ito, may direction na yung shadow natin dito. Kapag tinurn off ko to, balik natin siya sa physical camera natin. Ayun, no, top heavy lang siya, no, hindi dominant yung shadow natin, hindi natin nakikita yung mga reflections na gusto natin dito. While dito sa natin sa bandang taas, nakikita natin sometimes yung reflections, it's not enough, no? So kailangan talaga natin ng strength from our light objects. As you can see right here, nakita natin yung mga highlights and nagkaroon ng direction yung mga shadow natin. Just like a normal setup natin dito, no? So dito na kayo maglagay ng mga kung anong kaartehan sa mga light setups nyo. Dito nyo nagawin, no? Of course, since nakaset naman na yung mood and everything, try not to lose track yung gusto nyo talaga na mood, no? So, sa case ko dito, this one is a product, no? So, we have actually a lot more freedom for this one. Kasi yun nga, this one's a product. Pero sa case natin sa mga interiors or sa exteriors, you have to be consistent sa ating mga ibibigay na light objects dito sa scene natin dito. Because, kapag naset na nga natin yung background color natin to the right mood that we want, pero yung light objects natin dito is inconsistent to what we see from our background color, maliligaw yung viewer, no? Malilito yung viewer natin kung ano yung itsura ng scene natin talaga, kung anong time of day yung setting natin. So that's why it's very important na mag-rely pa rin kayo sa mga light objects natin to really finalize the mood lighting, no? Yung background color, madaling tumutulong lang sa atin yan to really set up the mood that we want para sa scene natin. Okay? Now, para naman paganda natin dito, let's try to play around muna with our lighting dito para tingnan nyo lang kung ano pa pwede magawa natin ng moods, no? So, I'm gonna be leaving this quad light here pa rin muna and then try naman natin ibahin yung background color natin dito. Now, this is the case nga ulit yung tinuro ko last time sa materials discussion natin with emission, no? Kapag ginawa natin kasi black yan, wala tayong any sort of light na nangyayari dito, no? So, kapag binalik natin sa black, magpapakita lang dito na main light source natin dito is yung quad light natin dito, which in all honesty maganda naman siya, no? It has a very dramatic effect, no? So I think it can still work, no? So dito nyo na paglalaruan yung mood nyo, no? So let's say nakakuha na kayo ng lighting setup na gusto nyo. try not to get satisfied with one setup. Try to play around with lots and lots of different light setups. Try nyo palitan na palitan yung mga mood nyo. No? So try natin, gawin natin ng much more cooler na much more cooler na tawag dito na light na mood lighting dito, no? So as you can see here, no, makapansin nyo naman kagad, no, pinapalitan ko siya to a little bit of a blue na color natin dito. And then, press ko lang okay, see if it looks okay, no? Parang ginagawa ko lang na dito, na trickery para dito sa product shoot natin dito is I want the platform here or yung cyclorama natin dito na parang nagba-bounce off yung lighting niya. Nagba-bounce off yung color niya natin dito once natamaan siya ng lighting, which currently right now yun yung ginagawa niya using yung background na color natin dito, no? So there's a lot of uses na magagawa nyo dito sa natin paggamit ng background color for your benefit, no? Of course, do me mindful na lang talaga sa kung anong color yung pinipili nyo. If you stray too far from the darker shades, mawawala yung itsura na yan. So try to go around sa mga somewhere lightish gray, no? Pwede pa naman siguro sa case natin dito na medyo darker na shade pa tayo dito, but yun nga, do be careful na lang kasi ang habol talaga natin dito is makita natin yung mood color natin dito, no? So sa case natin dito, we have a much more cooler light natin dito sa bandang ilalim na parang nagba-bounce off yung color ng platform ko dun sa mismong tart natin, which is pretty dramatic, no? So pwede natin gawin yan. Another way, kung gusto niyo na medyo maiba naman, let's say a much more warmer, lipat naman natin siya somewhere around nasa orange na yan, no? So this one right here, naiba na kagad yung natin, yung ambience din ng shoot natin dito. Siguro pwede pa natin maiba yung kulay ng texture ko dito sa cyclorama ko para mag-support siya dito sa warm na itsura natin dito, which I think in my own opinion, I think it much suits para dito sa color ng tart natin dito, no? So what I could probably do here is change yung background ko dito and yung buong platform natin dito to really support yung color ng chocolate tart ko dito. But yun nga, creativity is subjective. It could be good for you, it could be bad for others. Sa inyo na yan, no? So that is the power of the background color, no? Wala pa tayong any sort of fancy stuff na ginagawa dito. Nag-a-add lang tayo ng supporting na ambient light para dun sa lighting natin dito. But again, yun nga, final note ko na lang dito, never use the background color as your sole light source, no? Sure, pwede nyo naman siyang gamitin kung gusto nyo talaga as your main light source. But yun nga, sometimes hindi nyo makukuha yung accurate na gusto nyo dyan, no? Kasi we have no control on how strong the light here sa background color natin aside from our colors mismo. Okay? So, that is environment colors and how you can easily set up the right mood for your shoots, no? Now, since pretty much yun naman na talaga yung matuturo ko dun sa environment colors natin dito, because yun nga, it feels a bit incomplete because it is, no? Medyo incomplete pa tayo, no? But yun nga, ituturo ko yung final portion ng environment color natin next meeting, no? Because there's still a lot more that we can do. Ang paggamit natin ng environment or background color natin dito, this one is for very quick renders, no? Or for easily setting up the mood that you want, no? So pwede siyang gamitin for basic na product renders and pwede rin siya for various exterior shots, no? However, do take note na nga lang, no? Let's say yung render nyo, it involves it involves an angle similar to this, no? Which in most cases, most likely mangyayari yan, no? Mangyayari yung ganyan yan, magre-rely din kayo sa background color nyo to act as your literal background, no? So if you still remember back with our discussion sa first rendering natin, kapag nakikita yung void natin dito, which sa case natin dito, the void is still present, iniba lang natin yung color natin dito, we have to save it as a JPEG if you want to retain yung color natin dito. Because again, if I try to render this one and save image ko siya, so save ko na siya somewhere dito, lagyan na lang ng bagong folder, MD9, yan, there we go. So, lagyan na lang ako dito, and then let's do a test render. Let's say test 1, and then .png natin yan. And then, save din natin siya as a JPEG naman. So, test1.jpg naman. Kitang-kita nyo naman kagad, no? yung difference natin between the two. So, again, if you want to retain yung background color natin dito, nasa ba yan? 9. Okay, there we go. As you can see right here, no? Kitang-kita na kagad natin yung difference. This one is our PNG file. As you can see, PNG file. Ito yung JPEG file natin dito. If you want to rely on using background colors as your source of environment, which normally you shouldn't naman, no? Kailangan natin silang i-save sa JPEG para ma-retain natin yung background color na ginamit natin. Kapag wala tayong ilalagay, magiging ganyan yan, no? Which in some cases, mas maganda na yung ganito kasi this one, you have the option to add a different environment if you want, no? Pero kapag wala naman tayo nakikitang mga na void dito sa scene naman natin, we can just rely on our physical camera, double check na lang natin kung wala yung void natin dito, and then click lang natin si save. And then let's just do test2.png na lang natin yan para maganda yung quality natin. It doesn't really matter kung JPEG or PNG yan kasi wala naman tayo nakikitang dito. Wala tayong nakikitang any sort of na void dito sa scene natin. Then if we go back to our folder, asan na ba yan? Ito. There we go. Ito na siya, no? So this is our first test render, no? So as you can see, we have a very warm na mood natin dito, which I think sa case ko dito, I think I should have gone for the lighter blue na mood natin dito para yun nga fit siya dito sa color scheme ng background ko. But yun nga, creativity is subjective. Kayo bahala sa case natin dito. Alright? So, that is our first test render, no? So, next naman natin, after we're done with our mood, no? We're actually more or less tapos na kasi tayo sa sa majority of our lighting discussion, no? Naturo ko na sa inyo yung mga important na basic na light objects natin, and basically katuturo ko lang ngayon ng mood lighting natin, no? There are still some noteworthy na mga lighting skills na pwede pa natin matutunan, which is going to be done next meeting, but those are probably the, how should I say, a bit easy na medyo cheat code-ish na siya, kaya sa panghuli na lang talaga natin yon. So, sa muna tayo? Sa hard ones muna tayo and the more industry standard na mga techniques natin. Okay? So, after we're done with environment color, let's move on with our next topic, which is going to be Arnold Mesh Lights. So, Arnold Mesh Lights, no? Nandun na siya sa pangalan natin, no? So, Arnold Mesh Light is a type of light object na makikita natin sa Arnold Light, no? Now, Arnold Mesh Lights have constantly been questionable sa 3ds Max because it acts a little bit differently to what is expected, no? So, normally, what you would expect with a quote-unquote na mesh light is, let's say you have an object and then you add a mesh light to it, it basically turns said object into a light source, no? So, magiging light source siya and mag-glow siya, no? That is to be expected. However, sa case with 3ds Max, it's a bit different, no? Especially sa case natin between 2023 and 2024, no? So somewhere in between nagkaroon ng change sa Arnold Mesh Light, which is fairly recent, no? I'm actually surprised na ngayon lang ginawa nila to, which is basically involves yung emission na material natin and of course yun nga yung Arnold Mesh Light natin. But don't worry, papakita ko sa inyo kung ano yung difference between the two. Unahin na muna natin, of course, yung Arnold Mesh Light, no? As the name suggests. So, for this demo, hindi na muna ako mag-rely dito sa dito sa demo model natin dito. Punta naman tayo sa panibagong model natin dito. So, we're gonna be creating a fresh model. Yung gagawin ko na sample for this one is basically this one. Ito. Yung hallway of light na ginawa ko dati, no? So, this hallway of light, it utilizes, yun nga, yung Arnold Mesh Light natin dito. Or basically, sa case natin dito, it's a more of a mixture between Arnold Mesh Light and Emission. Now, this one is a little bit outdated, but yun nga, ituturo ko na sa inyo ngayon yung much more updated way of doing this. No? So, follow along with me. And then, gawin natin yung sample na demo natin dito. What I mean by follow along, I mean, I'm just going to be doing a time-lapse of this one. But yeah, based naman dito sa reference ko, sa ginawa ko dito, this one is super easy to do. Kita-kita nyo naman sa time-lapse yan. So, I'll be cutting right here. And then, ita-time-lapse ko na lang to. Right? Okay. So, more or less, ito na yung gagamitin natin na base para dun sa Hall of Light nga natin dito, no? Hindi ko muna siya nilagyan ng thickness because there's gonna be something that we need to do here, no? Na pwede natin gawin, no? Actually, pwede hindi ko na naman siya lagyan ng thickness for the walls, but it's going to be up to you, no? But sa case natin dito, nung ginawa ko yung reference natin dito, this one does not really have any sort of thickness whatsoever, no? So, back to here, no? Now, para hindi tayo masyado, mabother dun sa magiging lighting natin dito, let's try to reset na muna yung background color natin dito, no? So, again, yung default color natin dito is a simple black na color. As you can see, balik na tayo sa dati, no? Now, dito sa case natin dito, what we're gonna be doing is, we're gonna be turning yung mga edge loops na pinagagawa ko dito to lights, no? Ito yung i-isolate natin siya, gagawin natin silang mga light natin dito. No? So, before we do anything else, sa case ko dito, what we need to do is we need to separate these edge loops. No? Itong mga group na mga edge loops natin. No? So, select lang muna natin silang lahat by pressing and hold control and then double left click sa katabi. So again, select a face, and then press and hold control, double left click sa katabi niya na face dito para loop select siya. And then rinse and repeat sa rest of our loops dito. Okay? Because we need to basically tell 3ds Max that once we're gonna be using Arnold Mesh Lights, dapat dito lang niya i-connect yung mesh light nga natin. No? So once they're all selected na, selected na natin yung magiging light na source natin dito. Dito sa editable poly natin, let's go down here and hanapin nyo si detach. No? Hanapin natin si detach. Saan na ba yun? Detach. Where is it? Detach. Hindi ko na makita. Ayun, detach. No? Here you go. So, click nyo lang si detach. And then, let's just rename this one as Hall Lights. No? Para yun yung, yung designation niya. Yun yung purpose niya. No? So, then let's press OK. You don't have to rename it, but yun nga, dapat malinis tayo dito. No? Now, as you can see, once na-detach na natin yan, if we hide yung Hall Lights natin, putol-putol na yan. No? Only then, saka tayo pwede maglagay ng thickness nyo kung gusto nyo. No? But really, hindi na nga natin kailangan yan because yung loob naman natin dito, this one is double-sided. Okay? Now, next natin, let's give the whole box natin dito except for the actual na natin dito, yung mga Hall Lights natin dito ng material. No? So, let's just give the box a simple na material. This one does not have any, this is a simple matte material. Tinanggal ko lang yung natin, yung reflections natin. It's a simple physical material, no? And then, we're good, no? So, set up lang natin yung camera natin dito para maroon tayong konting basis sa ginagawa natin dito, no? So, let's just press Ctrl C again para may panibago tayong camera dito. Let's go to our Arnold render view. Let's press play. And then, puntahan natin siya to physical camera 002. Okay? Now, currently, wala tayong makita because number one, meron na kasi tayong existing light natin dito and wala tayong any sort of light source dito. So, let's just turn this off for the time being. Turn off lang muna natin yan. And then, let's go back to our Arnold render view para makita lang natin yung itsura ng render natin. Okay? Okay, so, ayaw niya magpakita yung render natin. Which is completely fine. Question mark. Wait, kasi may existing nga pala tayo dito. Okay, so, sa case ko dito, let me just hide this na lang muna. Pwede ba yun? Can we hide that? No, it won't work the exact way. No? So, okay lang yan. So, let's just leave this be na lang muna. No? So, for the time being, ayoko nang, sige, delete ko na nga muna to. Delete ko na muna to for demo purposes. Madali lang naman balik yan. Dito, and then, let's go to our Arnold render view again. Oops. Let's go to our Arnold render view again. Tingnan natin kung ano itsura ng angle natin. Let's go to our physical camera 2. Okay, there we go. So, more or less, ito yung gusto natin sa camera ko. No? Usog pa lang natin siya, igitna lang natin dito. So, let's press C and then select ko lang yung physical camera 2 ko. Or basically, yung camera ng para dito sa shot natin. Let's center this out a little bit more. Siguro pwede pa natin itong i-change yung FOV natin konti para makita lang natin yung kabuuan ng scene natin. Okay, so more or less, ito na yun. Okay, so more or less, nakuha na natin yung gusto natin dito. Now, next na lang natin dito is adding our lights, no? So, there's gonna be two ways on doing this, no? So, i-duplicate lang natin yung Hall Lights natin and then let's pick between the two, no? So, let's select our Hall Lights. Select lang natin yan. Then, press Ctrl V and let's do copy, no? And then press OK. Now, yung first one natin, let's make use of yun nga, yung basic na Arnold na mesh lights natin, no? So this one right here, as the name suggests, kailangan natin ng Arnold lights, okay? So let's go back here sa lights natin, and then let's click Arnold light. And then this one, it doesn't really matter kung saan mo ilagay ito, no? Because while sa high quality, kapag makikita nyo, kapag change natin yan to high quality, mag-iitsura nandun siya, no? Itsura nandito yung light natin, kahit lagay nyo natin dito. Papakita yan. Turn on lang natin yan. There we go. Makikita lang natin yung light natin dito. But, sa case natin with Arnold Mesh Light, yun nga, no? This one will only be present dito sa mga hall lights natin dito. Okay, so let's select our Arnold light ulit. Select our Arnold light. Nasaan ba yun? Arnold light. And then let's go here sa ating type. And then let's change it to mesh. Okay? Now, dito sa Arnold light natin dito, let's press none. And then select lang natin yung object na basically gagawin natin light source. Which sa case natin, ito yung hall lights natin. So let's just click hall lights. And okay na siya. Makilalaman nyo na pag nakaselect na siya kapag nagpakita dito yung pangalan ng object na sinelect nyo. Okay? Now, let's see what happens sa render natin. Let's press play. And then let's see kung ano yung resulta niya dito sa render natin. Ayaw niya mag-render. Why is it not rendering? Nag-freeze yung render ko. So, let me just wait here for a bit. Nag-freeze ang render ko. So, I'll probably cut right here muna until this one resolves itself. Okay, hindi na nag-freeze. No? So, more or less, ito na yung pinapakita dito sa scene natin. No? As you can see, medyo noisy siya. Now, para makita lang natin dito, itong noise kasi natin dito, this one is a pretty common thing na mangyayari talaga dito. So, para maiwasan lang natin dito, lagyan natin siya ng denoiser optics na lang siguro, no? But more kapag ang magiging result natin dito, it's a little bit undesirable, no? So, ayun, more or less okay naman pa siya, no? Pero yung problema, masyadong naging fade yung mga lighting natin dito. But more or less, ito yung pinapakita sa atin, no? So, pansinin nyo yung object natin, no? Remember, yung original na color ng object natin dito sa box natin dito is yellow, no? So, if you look closely dito, meron pa rin siyang color na yellow dun sa mesh natin dito. It's not exactly glowing, pero napapansin nyo, meron pa rin tayong light source, no? So, ang nangyayari dito kasi sa Arnold light natin dito, with Arnold Mesh Lights, ginagawa niya kasi dito is, it basically uses the mesh light as a form of guide, no? So basically, tinitake niya lang yung ano natin, yung mga edges natin doon, or basically yung parameters ng, not parameters, yung dimensions ng ating object natin, and doon siya naglalagay ng light source. It's not exactly glowing per se, but it's just adding a light source inside the object, no? So, more or less, hindi pa rin siya nag-glow. Meron tayong light source, but it's not the light source that we would naturally want for a literal mesh light. Ang gusto natin dito, kapag mesh light to, we want something like this, no? Talagang nag-glow yung object natin dito. Or, yun nga, neon yung tinatawag nga natin, di ba? Yun ang habol natin dito. Not this, no? Well, yes, it does look nice pa rin naman. Very situational lang paggamit natin with Arnold Mesh Lights. To be specific, mainly ginagamit to, like, for example, sa mga groove light natin dito. Usually, sa mga ceiling yon, doon nilalagay yon, no? But sa cases natin with something like this, when you're making neon na mga signs or neon na objects, this is not the way, no? Ang gagawin natin ngayon, to make, yun nga, to make a said neon light nga natin dito, instead of using Arnold Mesh Light, kapag 2023 kayo, gagamitin nyo pa rin to si Arnold Mesh Light, and then i-add natin si Emission. But since currently I'm using 2024, which most likely kayo naman lahat gumagamit na kayo ng 2024, we can easily bypass na tong Arnold Mesh Light natin dito. We can easily get rid of that. Delete na lang natin yan. And then, ang gagawin natin ngayon is selecting ulit yung hall lights natin. Or pwede naman natin gawin. Actually, no. Gawin natin, let's Control Z. Balik natin yan kasi para makita nyo lang, ma-demo lang natin, no? Hide lang muna natin itong si Arnold light natin, pati yung hall lights natin dito. And then, select naman natin yung dinuplicate natin kanina. Okay? So, yung Arnold light natin dito, let's just turn this off na muna. Turn off lang natin yung light natin dito. And then, dito sa hall lights natin, yung hall light 001, ito naman yung gagamitin natin with the quote-unquote na emission nga natin. No? So, sa case ko dito, para madali natin makita, no? So let's go to our standard muna. And then dito sa ating sa hall lights na duplicate natin, let's press M to go to our material editor. Maglagay tayo ng panibagong physical material, and then this will act as our as our emission shader, no? So, yun nga, diniscuss ko na to last time, no, with our texturing discussion. Emission shaders natin dito, or yung emission na values natin dito, it basically turns your material into a light source, no? Medyo hindi siya masyado dominant, but with the case kasi sa 2023 compared to 2024, 2023, medyo flat talaga yung bigay sa atin. While dito sa 2024, na flat pa rin naman siya, but this time much more prominent na yung lighting natin. Okay? So, let's go to our Arnold render view. Press lang muna natin si play. Turn off ko na muna tong si denoiser natin para makita nyo siya kagad, no? Now, dito sa ating material natin dito, let's change our color ng emission natin to somewhere with white. And as you can see, kaagad, no? Pag-change pa lang natin ng color, nakuha na natin yung gusto natin na light, no? Now, siguro na you're asking yourself, sir, bakit kanina yung render natin with the, with the Arnold Mesh Light, kulay blue yung background ko? I think sa cost ko na yun, siguro most likely dito sa ating, dito sa background ko dito. Because if you remember, sa case ko dito, may blue na, blue na background siya dito. So, most likely, nag-bounce off yung color niya doon sa loob ko dito. Because this one here, medyo thin kasi yung geometry na to. Now, pansin nyo, yung difference between the two, no? Kita, dito sa natin, using emission lights, wala akong binigay ng any sort of change aside from the, aside from the change in color. Hindi ko binago yung strength ng lighting ko dito. Kitang-kita na kagad na it's glowing, and yun nga, may light source na siya. Lagay tayo ng denoiser lang natin, and then let's just let it render. And as you can see right there, no, nakuha na kagad natin yung dun sa reference natin. It's acting how the Arnold Mesh Light would react, but even better na, no? So, if you're using 2024, wala na kayong masyadong kailangang problemahin in using Arnold Mesh Lights because pwede na kayong dumiretso sa paggamit ng emission. It's already reacting how Arnold Mesh Light should be, no? So, medyo na siya, medyo obsolete na ang Arnold Mesh Light sa case natin dito. If you want something like this, you want neon dito, gamitin nyo si emission shader. Pwede nyo paghaluin yung dalawa, but more or less, wala masyadong, wala masyadong changes na mangyayari. As you can see right here, remember, wala siyang no? Hindi siya nagre-render ulit. Nagre-render siya, but as you can see, walang changes na nangyayari dito, no? So, let's just let it load for a little while. Hintayin lang natin siya mag-re-render ulit. Tingnan lang natin kung ano yung itsura niya. Okay? So, I'll probably just cut right here until, until mag-render siya, no? So, I'll just cut right here. Okay, never mind. I don't have to cut anymore. As you can see right here, no? Nagkaroon na tayo dito, no? So, sa case dito, nagtatalo yung dalawa natin. Nagtatalo na yung Arnold Mesh Light natin dito tsaka dun sa emission natin dito. So, let's try to hide. Most likely, sa case nga natin dito, kinukuha niya yung blue na, na background natin. So, let me just try and hide that. Tingnan lang natin kung ma-fix siya. Okay, hindi siya doon. Hindi rin siya doon. So, saan nang gagaling to? Okay, ngayon nag-bug out na yung ko. Yung render ko. Bakit na ganito na? So, let's just re-render nga lang ulit to. Nagkaroon na tayo ng Ayun, never mind. Ayun, nagbalik na siya sa dati, no? So, konting visual errors tayo dito. So, bakit siya nagkaganon? Tingnan natin. Let's just re-render this lang ulit. Let's just try to troubleshoot. Tingnan lang natin kung ano yung problem natin dito. Bakit nagkakaroon tayo ng blue na color? Most likely nga, dito sa table ko dito sa, yung basically yung background ng ng, tawag doon? Ng chocolate tart ko, no? So, let's just re-render and nag-freeze na naman yung render ko. So, I'll probably cut right here again. Wait, never mind. Ito na, no? Okay, so hindi rin siya doon, no? Hindi rin siya nanggagaling dun sa dun sa table ko. So, saan siya nanggagaling ang tanong? Okay, so I'm gonna try and find out for this one, no? But sa case ko dito, most likely I'll probably just hide all of this na lang muna. Tingnan ko lang. Hindi pa rin. May blue pa rin tayo dito. Ano nangyayari? Bakit may blue na shade tayo dito. Let me just double check my scene. Bakit ako nagkaroon ng blue? Dito sa scene ko, wala naman akong blue na colors dito. How about my Arnold light? Hindi rin naman blue to. Nope, hindi rin siya blue. No? So, tataka ko saan nanggaling to. Wala naman akong any sort of blue objects dito sa scene ko. So, saan nanggaling to? Problema na to ng 3ds Max. Saan nanggaling ang blue na color natin na yon? So, I'll probably just cut right here. Dahil na-curious na rin ako saan nanggaling yung blue na color na yon. So, I'll probably just cut right here and then probably next na bumalik ako, na-figure out ko na kung ano yung reason kung bakit color blue yun. Okay, so more or less, I think I managed to solve it. I didn't find out kung ano yung nagrarason kung bakit color blue yun. May pagka-spooky nature na to But more or less, what I did here, siguro hindi naman siguro mangyayari sa inyo yun. But sa case na ginawa ko dito, na napalik ko na siya sa ano natin, it's still combining the two, no? Meron dito pa rin yung Arnold light ko, and nandito pa rin yung Hall lights na emission ko, no? So what I did here to basically try to change yung nangyari dito, no? Nakikita nyo pa rin siya, no? It's still showing yung parang blue na color natin dito. I still have no idea kung bakit siya nandun. Wala naman naka-hide naman na lahat dito. So I think problem na ni 3ds Max to or whatever sa Arnold Mesh Light or whatever siguro. But what I did here to sort of remedy yung situation, no? So if you're trying to make this one, nilagyan ko lang siya ng basic na shell modifier, binigyan ko lang siya ng thickness yung box natin dito to basically make it look like this, no? So nung ginawa ko yon, automatic naman na siyang biglang nag-fix itself, no? It automatically fixed itself. So yeah, if you're making something like this, you might want to add a little bit of thickness. Huwag kayong magano sa thin geometry. Normally, like dun sa reference ko, thin geometry yung ginawa ko dito. But then again, sa case ko dito, this one was using emission shader, no? So this one is using emission shaders noon. So more or less, hindi siya doon. Now this one, meron tayong nakikita ng blue light, but this one, sadya talaga to noon. But sa case ko dito, I have no idea ba't nagkaroon ng blue na light na yan. So most likely, it's 3ds Max being faulty at this point, no? We just blame it on 3ds Max na lang, no? So, more or less, that is Arnold Mesh Light, diba? So, again, note na lang natin for 2024, if you're using 2024, you don't really need to rely on using Arnold Mesh Light anymore. Pwedeng diretso na kagad kayo with emission lights, no? So, balik ko na lang yung basic controls ng material editor natin for the emission. Ito lang siya, no? So, by default, it's going to be color black. But yun nga, kapag color black yan, that means the light is turned off, no? So, we just have to change it to a lighter na color. Do take note nga lang, yun nga, no? Since iba na to, hindi na to basta-basta na lighting natin, no? This one is textures, no? Yung controls natin with the emission colors, if we stray too far from going sa, let's say, we're going to red, no? And then nag-stray far tayo to somewhere with a dark shade. While yes, it looks like it's getting darker, but really, it's not, no? Hindi siya nagiging dark in color. Namamatay lang yung ilaw natin dito, no? So, try not to stray too far from going too dark because, yun nga, mamamatay yung lights natin dito. Pwede naman kayo magano yan. Pwede kayong maglagay to something dark, no? But if you're planning to do on with something like this one na medyo dark yung color natin dito, click lang yung si OK dito. Diretso na kayo dito kay luminance. Dito kay luminance, this is basically yung intensity natin dito. This is yung strength of light ng emission natin dito, no? So that's pretty much it, no? And then Kelvin, it basically acts the exact same way, no? Kapag tinaasan lang natin yan, magiging slightly cooler and warmer yung natin, yung vibrancy ng light natin dito. It's not the color anymore, but more on the strength, no? Kapag tinaasan natin yan, tataas din yung value natin sa ating light natin. Magiging bababa yung light pala natin dito. Kapag binabaan natin, mas lalakas yung ilaw natin, no? So, if you just want to do that, no, kapag i-change nyo lang naman yung strength ng light ng emission natin dito, just do it here dito sa luminance natin dito, no? Default value natin dyan, that is 1,500. And then, you can go on from there. Kapag nilakasan nyo, of course, lalakas yung ilaw natin para dun sa shot natin dito. If you want to go for something a little bit more different colors natin dito, sure, pwede, no? But definitely, since yun nga, neon to, you're gonna want to go for something with a little bit more of a neon look, like this one, no? So, there we go. That is Arnold Mesh Light. Okay? So, with the usage of Arnold Mesh Light, again, it's pretty much self-explanatory na to kung saan siya pwedeng gamitin. Definitely kung gusto nyo gumawa ng mga neons. If you're gonna be using yung literal na Arnold Mesh Light na function natin with the Arnold Light, try to minimize it to somewhere sa mga grooves natin dito. Hindi siya yung, again, hindi siya mag-glow kapag ginawa nyong mesh light ang isang object natin. If you want it to literally glow, gamitin nyo na lang si Emission shader. Kung gusto nyo lang magkaroon ng sort of light source, yung object na gagamitan nyo ng Arnold Mesh Light, yun, pwede nyo gamitin si Arnold Mesh Light, no? Magbigay lang siya ng light source, but it's not gonna glow. So, it's going to be a little bit testy, no? More on trial and error yung ano natin dito, yung yung gagamitin nyo kung ano sa tingin nyo mas magandang gamitin para sa scene nyo. Okay? So, that is Arnold Mesh Lights. Now, moving on naman tayo dun sa next light na object natin dito, which is called making projectors, no? Mga projector natin. So, what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be using an image and we're gonna be projecting it using our light, no? So, this one is a little bit of a unique take, no? A little bit of unique take when it comes to using mga Arnold lights natin dito, no? Pansin nyo, puro Arnold lights tayo halos ngayon, no? Because in a more general sense kasi, much more useful talaga si Arnold light natin in terms of function, no? Marami siyang function na hindi magagawa natin sa photometry. Specifically, ito na rin yon, no? Yung paggamit natin ng mga projector, no? So, for demo purposes, let's just create a basic na site lang rin ulit, no? So, let me just duplicate this one na lang. Duplicate ko na lang to. Wait. Wrong one. Open ko lang muna to and then duplicate ko lang to para meron tayong mapag-viewan ng ating projector, no? So, konting discussion lang muna tayo on that part because ang technical term na gagamitin kasi natin dito instead of projectors, no? Ang tawag kasi natin dito ay called Gobos, no? They are called Gobos. With the recent addition kasi ng Arnold render engine natin back in 2016, no? Nagkaroon din tayo ng maraming functions via yung Arnold render engine natin dito. This includes yung mga light na filters natin dito. Now, when comparing it to other Autodesk softwares, definitely 3ds Max got the short end of the stick, no? Because literally when it comes to Arnold render engines, aside from the standard materials and of course yung mga Arnold lights natin dito, ang mga nadagdag lang na unique dito is yung light filters, no? While yes, it sounds underwhelming, but really maganda rin naman yung nadagdag sa atin dito. Specifically, itong Arnold Gobo filter, okay? So, ano ba yung Gobo? A Gobo is basically a projector of sorts, no? So, a Gobo is an item na nilalapat natin sa mga ilaw natin and it basically controls yung shape ng light na ipo-project niya, no? So, isipin nyo na lang siguro, the easiest example na madali nyo makikita sa media natin ngayon when it comes to Gobos is yung bat signal, no? So, knowing na it's basically the bat signal, try natin i-project yung logo ni Batman, okay? So, balik tayo kay 3ds Max. Pwede kayong maghanap ng logo ni Batman ngayon sa internet, no? Google Images lang naman as long as JPEG and PNG yung kailangan nyo dito, no? So, let's create a new Arnold light once again. Gawa tayo na panibagong Arnold light ulit. And then this time, ang gawin naman ngayon natin dito is, instead of using yung quad light natin, na default na quad light natin, or dito sa case natin, dito nakalagay siya sa mesh, yung Gobo filter natin kasi, yung Arnold Gobo filter natin, it's only locked behind spotlights, no? So, makes sense naman, no? More or less kasi yung mga Gobos kasi, it only reacts sa spotlight natin. Because yun nga, focus kasi yung area na binibigyan niya ng light. Unlike sa mga area light natin na malaki yung coverage, spotlights, they have a very limited range, no? Very limited yung range niya in terms of how much light is getting covered in a certain area. So, change natin yan to spot. And then, siguro place lang natin siya somewhere dito, no? So, I guess kung gagawin niyo rin yung parang bat signal natin dito, you might want to create a model para yun nga, for demo purposes, di ba? Let's just angle this one upwards right here para yun nga, it acts like a projector. And then, move on na tayo sa ating pagdagdag ng Gobo filter natin. Okay? So, once this one's all set up naman na, gawin ngayon natin, while still selected pa rin yung Arnold light natin dito, let's go to our modifier list and type in nyo Gobo. Gobo. Isa lang naman yung bibigay sa 10 dyan, no? So, Gobo, no? Kapag sa 2024 yan, may search bar kayo. But kung wala kayong, kapag hindi nagpapakita si Gobo dyan, gawin nyo na lang, type in nyo lang Arnold, no? Tapos hanapin nyo tong si Arnold Gobo filter, okay? If you're using 2023 or below, no? Kapag 2024, just type in nyo lang Gobo and then select Arnold Gobo filter. There we go. Now, dito sa Arnold Gobo filter natin, para madali nyo makita kagad, actually, mamaya na pala, no? So, dito pala sa Arnold Gobo filter natin, to add our image, basically, you can literally add any image here, no? You can add any image here via dito sa slide map natin. Dito sa slide map natin, mapapansin nyo, meron tayong none dito. This basically controls naman yung color ng spotlight natin dito. Kung gusto nyo bayin yung kulay, pwede nyo baguhin dyan yan. But, yun nga, hindi yun ang magiging gamit natin dito. Because, ang magiging gamit natin dito is yung paggamit natin ng image dito sa none natin. So, you either click on this one and then search nyo lang bitmap, or pwede nyo diretso kayong open nyo yung folder nyo, hanapin nyo yung image na gusto nyo gamitin, and let's view it. Basically, drag and drop na lang natin yan. No? So, ito yung bat logo ko. Drag and drop ko lang siya dito sa slide map. And, mapapansin nyo, nakalagay na siya dyan. Papansin nyo dito, wala pa tayong makikita. But, if we switch over back to our Arnold render view, and then let's press play, punta tayo kay viewport camera. There we go! Pansin nyo yung bat logo natin. But yun nga, pansin nyo, medyo baliktad siya, no? That one is a super simple fix naman na, no? So, either we can rotate yung ating, yung ating object natin dito. We can rotate that one. But, I think much easier na lang natin dito para hindi na lang natin masira yung location ng spotlight natin dito. Instead of re-angling yung mismong spotlight natin, what we can do is, let's open our material editor. So, press natin si M. And then, dito sa natin, balik tayo dito sa modifier tab natin. Let me just cross this out for na. May lang itong scene na ko dito. Select ulit natin yung spotlight natin dito. Let's go to our modify tab. Ang gagawin natin dito is drag and drop natin yung image na dito. Kapag baliktad siya or yun nga, incorrect yung natin, yung angle natin. And then, make sure instance yan. Then, press natin si OK. And then, if we go back sa Arnold render view, pakita ko na lang siya live na nag-change. Pansin lang natin yan. Let's press play. And then, selecting yung bat na logo na image natin dito. Paglalaroan lang natin yung angle ng tiling natin. Specifically, itong W natin. Yung W natin dito, this is our rotation. So, this one right here, kailangan lang natin siyang invert ng 180 degrees. There we go. Yan na siya, no? Pwede naman natin siyang baguhin din yung tiling natin dito kung masyado siyang yung let's say stretch out yung natin, yung itsura niya via yung tiling natin dito, no? So sa case natin dito, pwede natin baguhin siya diyan, or sa case natin dito, palaitin lang natin yan, ayusin lang natin yung tiling diyan, no? So that's basically the overall controls natin dito, no? But instead of using yung tiling natin nga pala dito, no? Para hindi masyadong maapektuhan yung image natin dito, no? Instead of using this one, gamitin nyo na lang to for rotations, no? But for the tiling issues, gawin nyo siya dito sa mismong Gobo filter natin dito. As you can see here, meron tayong scale S tsaka scale T tayo dito, no? So, it's going to be doing the exact same thing rin naman. So, yun lang rin yan. It plays around with the tiling, okay? And then, there we go, no? Na-adjust na natin yung bat logo natin. All that's left is go back sa Arnold light natin dito sa modifiers natin. And then, lakasan lang natin yung intensity. Let's say to 5. Para lumakas lang yung ilaw natin. And then, kung gusto nyo lakihan pa yung yung radius ng light natin, or lakihan natin yung light, or liitan, kayo bahala kung gusto nyo. And then, yung radius natin, again, that's a spotlight. Kung gusto nyo lakasan yan, there we go, no? So, easily, we can already project yung mga light na gusto natin dito. Do be careful nga lang for something like this, no? Nagkaroon tayo ng ng tiling issue dito, no? This one right here can easily be fixed by yun nga, paglaruan nyo lang naman yung scaling na gusto natin dito, no? So, sa case ko dito, it should be scale T para mawala lang yun, no? So, there we go. I think fault na rin natin ng image ko rin to, no? So, there we go. Na-project na natin yung bat logo na gusto natin dito. And, that is basically using light projectors, no? Now, here's a little bit of, more information para sa paggamit ng mga light projectors, no? Because sa case ko dito with the bat logo, no? Let's open yung bat logo ko, no? So, ito yung bat logo. As you can see right here, no? white and black siya, no? White and black. And then let's try to see here, no? Just like a normal, yung bat signal nga natin, di ba? Ito yung parang nakadikit na sa spotlight, no? So this one, it's reacting realistically, di ba? Because it's covering the light. This is the important thing when using black and white images sa mga Gobos nyo. Kapag may black and white gradient ang Gobo na image nyo, yung gagamitin nyo na image, ganito yung mangyayari dyan. The light shades will basically have the light, and then the darker shades, hanggang black natin, walang magkakas na light doon, no? So bigyan ko pa yun ng another example, no? So I'm gonna be giving another example. This time, gawin naman natin siya parang water effects, no? So this one is going to be a bit of a segue na rin to a certain video that I have already in Discord, no? So this one right here, lipat lang natin dyan. Ito yung caustics ko. And see what happens here. Ito, this one, naging itsurang tubig na siya, no? Because if you look closely dun sa sa image ko dito, saan ba yun? So this one right here. This one is using black and white gradients natin. And then, if we look at our renders again, pansin nyo, kung saan yung may mga light na shade natin dito, dun lang siya nagkakaroon ng parang may ilaw, no? It's where light is casting from, no? So yun yung kailangan yung tandaan if you're gonna be adding something like this, no? Walang problem yan, of course, sa kahit anong image ang ilagay nyo dyan na may color, pwedeng-pwede yan. But for something like this, na black and white ang gradient nyo, do be mindful na lang sa image nyo, no? Sometimes it might not look correctly because yun nga, mali, baka inverted yung colors na ina-expect nyo, no? So do be mindful na lang. Again, lighter shades, doon magkakas yung light. Darker shades, walang light. Okay? So that is basically it for the Gobo filter, no? So quick na na rin to, quick na advertisement ko na lang rin. If you want to learn more about using yung Gobo filter and to be specific, yung paggamit natin ng ganito, ng mga water rays natin dito, you can check out yung video dito sa Discord natin. Matagal na siya na dito, no? So dito siya, 3ds Max-resources. Ito siya, no? Scroll up lang kayo, this one right here, 3ds Max trick and demo using Arnold light filters to make Gobos, no? So, pwede nyo i-view yan, no? Pwede nyo i-view agad dyan. If I remember correctly, binigay ko rin yata dito yung, ito, no? So, kung gusto nyo gamitin yung files na ginamit ko dito sa tutorial na to, where basically I recreated a scene from Blade Runner, nandito yan sa general resources, no? So, Blade Runner 2049 Caustic Corridor. You can easily download it from there and then follow along kayo dito sa tutorial na yon kung interested kayo in learning more about caustics and Gobos, no? So, medyo mahaba-haba rin yung discussion dito, but trust me, it's super worth it if you want to make very realistic na renders, no? To be specific, underwater na renders, no? So, yun lang naman yon. That's my quick advertisement. We can move on to our next discussion, which is going to be the most fun part, no? Volumetrics, or adding a very dramatic effect sa ating mga renders. Okay, for our final discussion natin dito, this one right here, definitely pang final touches to, no? You don't want to do this technique natin dito, or not exactly technique, but more of a function sa mga 3D softwares natin dito. You don't want to do this while you're doing your work, no? Pang final nyo na dapat to, because this one is very, very heavy to render, guys, no? It might not look like na matagal yung render ko dito because yun nga, I'm using my GPU here, malakas yung GPU ko. But if you're using a standard na laptop nyo or computer natin, or worse, sa lab natin, this one is going to take a while. Matagal siyang i-render, no? So do be mindful na lang. Quick disclaimer ko na yan. It's not always going to be fast for you, no? Expect nyo na matagal talaga to. Kaya, you're gonna want to do this one as your final touch na sa render nyo, no? So, with that out of the way, move on na tayo dun sa volumetrics natin. So, quick discussion tayo. Volumetrics, no? Volumetrics, in a sense, when it comes to 3D, gives off a sense of volume or atmosphere, no? Commonly presented as a form of fog, no? But don't get me wrong, guys, no? While it is commonly presented as a form of fog, it's not exactly a fog, no? While technically, pwede rin naman siya maging fog, 3ds Max does not possess that kind of ability. Well, not yet at least, no? But Blender, matagal niyang nagagawa na yon, no? So, quick disclaimer lang rin ulit, no? Now, while it is presented as a fog or air in a render, its use in presenting a mood or ambience can easily one-up your render due to the real-world similarities, no? Because definitely alam naman natin sa the way we breathe, no, kailangan natin ng oxygen, no. We need to have air in our daily lives, no. Ganyan, same lang rin yan, same process lang yun sa natin, sa volumetrics and sa mga environment natin. Commonly presented sa mga media natin dito when it comes to volumetrics, napapansin natin yan via these rays of light, no, or yung tinatawag natin na God rays, no? Ayun nga, nakalagay na siya. Sample of real-world occurrences where volumetrics are present are God rays or rays of light you see in a window that shines in your interior. Or pwede rin siya mga orbs of light kapag nasa mga deep inside ng cave kayo, no? Because kahit nasa inside ng cave kayo, there is still air. Nandun pa rin yung atmosphere, nandun pa rin yung sense of volume, nandun yung sense of air natin, no? Yun yung nagre-result natin to get those kinds of glows or these kinds of rays of light. Yun yung real world science doon, no? So sa case natin with 3ds Max and other 3D softwares, we're basically going to add a simple item sa mga renders natin that basically tells our software na okay, I'm gonna be giving you this sort of item. Ang kailangan mong gawin dito is give an atmosphere doon sa scene natin dito, no? In some ways, ang volumetrics ni 3ds Max, based on my personal experience, I think it's a little bit more superior compared sa Blender natin, no? Don't get me wrong, I love yung volumetrics ng Blender, but in terms of displaying a real world na presentation ng volumetrics or yung mga rays of light nga ng ganito, no? Much more realistic yung sa 3ds Max compared to Blender, because sa Blender kasi, unlike kay 3ds Max na literally world scene wide na siya, buong render nyo na present na kagad yung volumetrics natin, kay Blender kasi we have to set it to an object, no, because hindi siya exactly a sort of thing that we add to our entire render. Nilalagay natin yan to a certain object to act as a sort of cage, no. So it has its limitations, no. Now enough of that, no. Volumetrics, yun nga, can't always be present at all times, since you have to think realistically. Volumetrics, while yes, maganda talaga ang bigay niya sa atin, we have to think realistically on this one, no? So, paano natin maiisip niya? Basically, ito lang yung mga naiisip ko ng mga tanong na dapat itatanong yung sarili nyo, no? Number 1, is my scene in an enclosed room or in a dense area like the woods? Second, is my scene in a nighttime setting if presented with an exterior shot? Third, is my scene in an interior shot where light is shining down a window or in a tree or anything that can obscure said light from reaching its destination? And lastly, is my scene in an enclosed space and the setting is dark? Now, kapag yung sagot nyo dito on two or more of these questions are yes, definitely pwede nyo nang i-consider dito gamitin ang volumetrics, no? Because very situational ang volumetrics natin, no? More or less, ang mga napapansin kong nagiging use ng students when using volumetrics na common mistake nila dito is hindi siya wala siyang there's no obscurities from the light. Basically clear na field lang siya, tapos biglang may ray of light tayo doon. That's unrealistic, no? While yes, in real world na situations nangyayari 'yon, but meron pa rin tayong obscurity doon, no? Most cases doon yun yung sun natin, and ang obscurity doon is yung clouds natin. Yung clouds yung nag-act as obscurity para nadidisperse yung natin, yung ray of light natin dito. Gaya ng nangyayari dito sa case natin, no? Of course, clouds are a little bit harder to do na rin sa 3ds Max, no? Because it's technically impossible using yung base version of 3ds Max, no? But yun nga, I'm not allowing the use of any external na items na pwede nyo i-install. No, that's a big no-no. So, we're gonna be doing some unique things na pwede natin gamitin para ma-replicate natin yung gusto natin dito, no? But enough of that, setup na tayo, no? So, let's say, balikan natin si 3ds Max, no? Balik tayo kay 3ds Max, let's use yung natin dito, yung chocolate tartlet natin dito, no? Bigyan ko muna kayo ng super simple na example ng volumetrics, no? So let's go back to our physical camera 1. And ito yung shot natin, di ba? So let's go back to Arnold render view. This one right here, wala tayong any sort of light dito, di ba? Meron pala tayong light. It's coming from our, tawag dito, from our emission light. No? So, tanggalin lang muna natin yan. Let's just delete na lang tong ano natin dito. Itong Arnold light natin na one natin dito. This one right here, ano to? Okay, yung spotlight ko to. This one here, di natin kailangan yan. Itong hall lights natin dito, let's hide them for now. No? Hindi muna natin kailangan yan kasi we need to have a dark na scene natin dito. No? So, let's try to see our render one more time. Ang gagawin nating spotlight natin dito is our spotlight, no, para makita agad natin yung ray of light na gusto natin. Okay, so it's completely black. Wala nang tayo presence of light. Mag-add na tayo ng simple na Arnold light. Now, using volumetrics, it doesn't really matter kung anong light gamitin nyo, whether Arnold light or photometric. It's going to be a global occurrence dito sa scene nyo. So, it doesn't matter kung anong light ang gamitin nyo. Do take note nga lang, however, na magano kayo, paglaruan nyo mabuti yung lights nyo. No? Because kapag multiple lights ang gamit nyo dito sa scene nyo, makikita nyo kagad yung, yung effects niya dito sa scene natin. No? So, pakita ko na muna sa inyo. Arnold light tayo, and then lagay lang tayo dito. And then, let's shine it up above here. No? Bigyan natin siya ng top heavy. No? Gawin natin siyang top heavy. And then, let's change this one into a spotlight. Para yun nga, meron ng shape yung light natin. No? So, let's change it to spot. Tingnan lang natin siya sa natin. High quality. Okay. So, oops. Ano pala natin to? Pataging cylinder to. Change it to spot. Okay, there we go. So, more or less, ito yung gusto natin. No? So, tapat lang natin siya dito. Very dramatic, di ba? So, tingnan lang natin sa render kung ano currently itsura nito. Let's play our render. And then, balik tayo sa physical camera 1. Okay, there we go. Very dramatic, di ba? Very dramatic na kagad yung binibigay sa atin ng ating spotlight, no? Now, bigyan naman natin to ng volumetrics. Mas bigyan pa natin ng drama dito sa ating render, no? So, I'm just gonna move it a little bit dito muna sa gilid lang natin. And then, pupunta tayo sa render setup, no? So, let's press F10 to go to our render setup. And then, punta tayo dito kay Arnold Renderer, okay? So, dito sa Arnold Renderer, let's scroll down and hanapin nyo dito si Environment, Background, and Atmosphere. Click nyo lang yung drop down, and then hanapin nyo dito si Atmosphere. Ito siya, isa lang yan, no? Atmosphere, and then dito, a Scene Atmosphere. Currently, nakalagay dito no mat. Lalagyan natin yan ng material. Now, to be specific, select natin yan, and then search nyo dito, Atmosphere, Volume. Isa lang naman yan, no? Atmosphere, Volume. Wag volume ang i-type nyo. Marami yan, ha? So, dalawa pala yun. Select nyo si Atmosphere Volume, no? Ito, select nyo lang yan. Atmosphere Volume. Then, press lang natin si OK. And, yun na yun, no? But, pansin nyo, even if I try to re-render this, re-render lang natin, and currently, nag-freeze na naman yung render ko. Pagod na yung computer ko. But, let's just wait for this a little bit. But currently, pansin nyo, wala naman nagpakita na di ba? Walang nagpakita na any sort of ray of light natin dito. No? So, let's just wait for this one. Okay, there we go. So, let's re-render this again. Again, be careful lang tayo dito, no? May occasion na nagpe-freeze na yan, no? Kung kanina pa kasi nagpe-freeze to kasi marami akong mga naka-open na apps. But as you can see, even when I re-render this, walang nagpakitang ray of light dito, no? So, close out lang muna natin yan. Let's just close out of this muna para makasave muna tayo ng space natin sa sa CPU natin or sa GPU nyo. And then, what we're gonna be doing is, while the render setup is still open, present pa rin dito yung natin, yung atmosphere volume, let's open our material editor. Okay? Open natin si material editor and then drag and drop natin tong si atmosphere volume papunta dito sa ating material editor. Make sure instance yan. And then, click OK. Alright? And then, we enclose this one na. Move natin to dito sa gilid. Balik natin si Arnold Render View. And then, ipapakita ko na sa inyo how to change yung settings natin dito. No? So, let's just have it render again. Pansin nyo again. O, tapos na yung render niya. Currently, mabilis pa yan. No? But yun nga, do not expect that kind of fast na render sa, sa inyo. Okay? So, currently, wala pa rin tayong difference. No? Select natin tong atmosphere volume. Tingnan nyo mabuti dito sa density. No? Change ko yung value nito. Pa-press ko ngayon, 1 dito. I'm gonna be changing it to 1 naman. See what happens sa render natin? There we go! Nagkaroon tayo ng huge chunk of light natin dito, no? So the density here, it basically controls yung strength ng ano natin, ng atmosphere natin, no? How dense the air is, no? This one here, sobrang dense na ng ano natin dito ng hangin natin dito, patay na yung tao lang at this point, no? So we don't want a very strong density. Super minimal lang ang change natin dito, no? So lowest value natin dito is 0, okay? So if you want to change yung ano natin, yung density natin to a somewhat reasonable level, pakonti-konti tayo dyan. Gawin natin yung starting range natin, 0.01. And then pansin nyo, kahit 0.00, kahit 0.01 yan, malakas pa rin, no? But yun na nga, hanggang dyan na yung pinakamababa talaga natin. That's the lowest amount that we can give to this density, no? Now, ang problema na lang natin dito, yun nga, masyado pang malakas, no? Paano natin babaguhin yan? We can easily change it dito sa eccentricity, no? Yung eccentricity, hindi ko na di-discuss yung science dyan, but more or less yung ginagawa nito is how tame yung light natin dito, how vibrant yung ano natin, yung atmosphere natin dito, no? So, see what happens. Tataasan ko lang konti yung ano, bit by bit yung eccentricity ko. Hindi ko siya dinadraga, no? Pakonti-konti lang ang change ko, no? Pwede nyo drastically kagad itaasan, but mapapansin nyo kagad, no? Currently at 0.695 ako, natitame down na yung ano natin, yung volumetrics natin or yung atmosphere natin. But yun nga, dahil tinitame down din natin siya, basically dinidim natin yung atmosphere natin dito, yung basically ray of light natin dito, nadadamay din yung ilaw natin. So, let's say you want to try and dapat pala sa case natin dito, yung workflow nyo dito, isettle nyo na muna kung satisfied na kayo dun sa tameness, no? Or yung presence ng atmosphere natin. So, let's say 0.9, medyo satisfied na ako dito. It's a little bit tame, nandun na yung dramatic effect na gusto ko, okay na ako dyan, no? Now, only thing left to do, change lang natin yung ilaw natin, yung intensity lang natin, to basically make up para dun sa ating render, no? So, Arnold Light 3, and then, scroll down tayo, hanap lang intensity, gawin natin 2, lakasan natin to bit by bit. Pansin nyo, wala masyadong nagbabago, no? Kasi change lang naman natin dito yung lakas ng ilaw natin. Okay? So, that is basically it for volumetrics in a nutshell, no? Napakadali lang yan, no? Sa case ko dito, yun nga, kapag wala tong volumetric ko dito, wala tayong ganitong any sort of ray of light. If you want to see something like this, yun nga, no, kailangan nyo ng presence of light, no? Hindi gagana dito ang background color lang. We need to have an actual light talaga. Okay? So, kailan nyo pwedeng gamitin ang ray of light nga natin? Yun nga, itanong nyo sarili nyo yung mga questions na binigay ko dito. Ito na yan, no? Yung mga nasa enclosed room ba yan? Nasa woods ba kayo? And then, make sure nyo yung make sure na yes yung sagot nyo in two or more of these questions, okay? Only then saka nyo siya pwedeng i-consider sa mga renders nyo, okay? Another thing that you can do is let's try to make this one, no? Let's try to make this simple na hallway natin dito para makita lang natin yung hallway natin sa yung portions natin dito, no? So let's go back to our 3ds Max one more time and then gawin natin yung model na yun, okay? So I'll probably do a time-lapse once again. Parang ginawa ko lang rin dito. It's a super simple model lang naman. So, I'm gonna be cutting right here and then mag-start ako ng time-lapse if you want to follow along and make that hallway. Okay, so more or less, ganito yung reference natin dito, no? So, it's a basic hallway, it's a very basic hallway na may mga butas lang natin, may butas lang tayo dito to act as our windows, no? So, what we're gonna be doing is let's try to set up a camera lang muna natin dito. Let's try to set up a camera. Let's just play the one and then viewport camera tayo. And then, para mapadali lang yung buhay natin, no? Bigyan lang natin siya ng background color lang muna para madali natin makita. Okay, there we go. So, currently, ito na siya, no? So, let's just try to set up a good na angle for this one to act as our scene, no? Okay, so, let's go for something like this one siguro, no? Okay, let's do this one. Then, Control-C ako. And then, change ko lang konti yung FOV to make it zoom out a little bit more. Pan up ko lang siya konti. Okay, there we go. I think this should work na. Okay, so okay na to siguro, no? So more or less, ito yung gusto kong gawin, no? So, let's settle on this one. And then this time, yung workflow na gagamitin natin dito is not only gagamitin natin siya ng background color, we're basically going to add a basic light na rin natin, no? We're gonna be adding a basic light. Basically, i-apply natin yung mga tinuro natin dito. I-apply natin yung volumetrics, i-apply natin si environment color, and i-apply din natin siguro si light projector, no? Let's try to add parang underwater siya, no? So, let's try to play around, okay? Now, let's go to our Arnold light, and then let's press Arnold light natin dito. Let's make a basic na Arnold light. Siguro let's try to settle muna with a basic na quad light, no? Settle up muna natin yung yung main source of lighting natin. So, on that note, dahil isa-settle na muna natin yung main source of lighting natin dito, ita-turn off ko na muna si background color. Now, dahil may ilaw naman na ako dito, kita ko naman na siguro to sa Arnold render view, no? So, if I go back here, pansin ko naman, if I press play, okay, may ilaw na tayo dyan, it's already reacting how I would want it, no? So, settle up ko na lang muna yung location ng light natin dito. Try to determine na muna how the light will cast dito sa scene ko, no? So, more or less, kailangan ko pa siguro i-extend yung lighting, yung coverage ng lighting ko dito para cover yung lahat natin dito, no? So, let's try to settle it right around there siguro. Ipunta ko lang siya konti dito, masyadong malakas. So, more or less, okay na siguro to, no? Siguro itaas ko pa siya konti kasi masyadong kita yung ilaw, yung orb of light ko dito, no? So, I don't want to have that. Now, currently, if I remember correctly nga pala, no? I already have yung natin dito, yung atmosphere volume natin dito. So, sa case ko dito, I don't really need to add it anymore, no? So, but let's say yun nga, sige, for demonstration purposes, tanggalin ulit natin si atmosphere volume. Right-click lang ako dyan, then clear ko siya. This is how it currently looks without atmosphere volume, no? So, settle up lang muna natin gaano ka lakas yung presence ng ilaw natin dito. Siguro masyadong napalaki yung quad Y ko dito. Litan ko lang siya konti. Litan ko lang siya dito. There we go. So, let's go back here. More or less, nandito yung gusto natin na parang ray of light niya, no? So, try to look lang ako dito. Ayoko masyadong makita dito yung light natin dito. I want it to literally be shining down dito sa scene ko, no? So, I think that should work naman na, no? I think that should work, okay? So, next naman natin dito, what I'm gonna be doing is, maglagay tayo ng siguro sa case natin dito, baguhin lang muna natin yung kulay ng physical material natin dito para madali nyo makita yung ray of light natin. Because currently, this one right here, medyo mahirap makita yung ray of light natin. So, let's go for something with a little bit more of na darker na tint natin dito, no? So, let's go for something black, siguro. And then, let's go, okay. And then, pwede na tayong mag-setup ng ating volumetrics. Let's go to F10. Let's go to Arnold Renderer. And then, click tayo sa No Matte. Let's add a new atmosphere volume na lang. That's completely fine. Then, click tayo dyan. And then, press natin si OK. Now, ito lang yung medyo konting downside rin natin dito. Because yun nga, dahil ang atmosphere volume natin dito, this basically deals with everything dun sa scene natin dito. We have to be careful talaga yung presence ng mga ilaw natin dito, no? So, papakita ko sa inyo kung paano natin ayusin din yon, okay? So, for now, ayusin lang muna natin siya dito sa scene natin dito, okay? So, let's go with... Asan na ba yun? Yan na nga pala natin to, no? Drag and drop natin si atmosphere volume dito. Instance, then click OK. And then, let's play around with the density. Gawin natin 0.01. Pansin nyo? Ayan, kitang-kita naman na kagad natin na meron tayong rays of light na kagad dito sa scene natin, no? Siguro pwede natin siyang lagyan pa ng ibang ng konting may parang projector tayo dito. That's completely fine as well, no? Siguro sa case ko dito, maybe I can use na lang muna yung natin, no? So, instead of using quad natin, actually mas maganda na pala yung ganito rin, no? Siguro sa case ko na lang dito, what I could have done, maglagay ako ng parang mga bars natin dito to act as a parang obstruction lang. But, more or less, kita naman natin yung di ba? Yung God rays naman natin dito, which is yung goal nga naman natin dito. So, I think I can get settled with this one for now na lang muna, no? Let's settle with this one for now. And then, what I'm gonna be doing next is maglagay pa tayo ng ilang ilaw dito sa loob, no? So, let's add a bunch of Arnold light natin dito. Maglagay tayo ng basic na... Ay, napansin nyo, no? Dahil yun nga, global tong natin dito. Yung atmosphere volume natin dito. Every time that we see a different light as well, damay din sila, no? So, if you want to minimize yung natin dito, may paglalaruan lang tayo sa settings natin, no? Settings ng mga ilaw natin. So, specific, let's try to place around this muna, no? Lagay lang tayo ng dito. Change natin siya to a point light, no? And then, liitan lang natin konti yung volume natin. There we go. So, let's say, dito sa case natin dito, yung Arnold light natin dito with the point light, if we want to try and, tawag dito, if we want to try and minimize yung natin, no? Yung overall na, tawag dito, overall na presence niya dun sa scene natin dito, no? There are lots of ways, no? There's a lots of ways what we can do that. Pwede nating i-dim siya mismo dito sa natin, sa mismong intensity natin. Pwede natin gawin yon. That's most probably my most suggested way of altering yung natin, no? Yung overall na ilaw natin dito. Because yun nga, malaki na yung dominance niya dito sa natin. Yung sa, tawag dito, yung sa, tawag dito, kalimutan ko na, kung sabihin ko, yung presence niya sa volumetrics natin dito, no? But in certain cases, no, in certain cases na like sa case natin dito na medyo malakas na talaga siya, no? Pwede natin babaan yung natin dito, yung contribution niya dito sa scene natin. Pwede natin babaan yung volume natin dito. So sa case natin dito, no, pansin niyo, no. So select natin si Arnold light dito sa natin, may contribution tayo dito. Punta tayo dito kay volume, no? Dito kay volume, sa case natin dito, this one handles basically yung sa density niya, no? Kung gusto nyo bang isama siya sa overall na volumetrics natin, dito nyo siya yan, if you want to set, kung ayaw nyo if ayaw nyo makita yung presence ng object natin na yan dito sa ating scene natin, sa atmosphere volume natin, set its volume to 0, no? Kung gusto nyo magkaroon ng presence dyan, gawin nyo siyang 1, no? 0 and 1 lang yung values naman natin dyan. Okay? Baguhin ko lang pala yung natin. Masyado palang reflective yung isa ko na material dito. Gawin lang natin tong 0 para makita nyo lang natin, no? And change lang natin to a different color para makita lang ulit natin. There we go, no? Para hindi siya masyadong reflective. Again, punta tayo dito kay Arnold, tong point light natin dito. Not that one. Ito. There we go. And then, scroll down tayo. Punta tayo kay volume. Currently, maximum 1 yung volume niya. But, ginawa natin 0. Wala na yung presence ng parang orb of light na yon, no? So, that's pretty much it, no? Kung gusto niyo rin sa natin, yung sa shadow natin, yung atmospheric shadows natin, again, since ray of light din yan, sometimes it can cast shadows. Kapag may nakikita kayong unnecessary shadows dun sa lighting nyo, na nanggagaling dun sa volumetrics nyo, pwede nyo rin i-click tong si atmospheric shadows, no? It minimizes that, no? But, yun nga, it's a very rare occurrence naman, no? Pwede nyo leave it alone naman dyan. But yun nga, pag may napansin kayong na unnecessary shadow na hindi nyo gusto, click nyo lang to, atmospheric shadows, okay? So that's pretty much it for volumetrics as a whole and how we can create a very dramatic scene dito sa scene natin using a very simple function. Again, volumetrics, matagal talaga i-render to, no? So do not expect that your renders are going to be quick just like mine, no? So pag nagpatong-patong na lahat yan, definitely magtatagal ang renders nyo. So expect that talaga, no? Currently, mabilis talaga to kasi yun nga, mabilis ang renders ko. So sa case ko dito siguro, pang final touches siguro, no? Parang konting lens flare na lang siguro to. Parang lens flare na lang natin yung gawin dito sa point light natin dito. So let's try to add a little bit of volume natin dito. Parang konting lens flare natin siya. Gawin natin 0.2. Konting touches na lang to, no? So this can act as a sort of lens flare na lang, no? And then gawin natin siya, saan ba yun? Radius natin. Tapos babaan lang natin yung intensity nito. 0.1, let's say. Masyadong malakas to, 0.01. Ayun, parang lens flare na siya, but wag lang natin siya masyadong idikit sa mga kung ano man natin dito, no? So, more or less, yun yung ano natin. Okay? So, that is volumetrics in a nutshell, no? And that's basically the end of our discussion. Medyo heavy talaga tong si volumetrics, but then again, yun nga, very fruitful naman ang pwede nyo maging output dito, no? So, again, konting quick advertisement lang ulit, no? Because this one right here, tinuro ko rin siya dun sa isang tutorial ko, no? So again, dito lang yan, 3ds Max Resources. If you want to have a more creative na demo dito sa discussion natin, you can try and play around with this tutorial na ginawa ko, no? So ayan, 3ds Max using Arnold light filters to make Gobos. Kinover ko rin dyan yung basically yung tinuro ko ngayon, except dun sa Arnold Mesh Light natin, no? So tinuro ko dyan yung light projectors and yung volumetrics natin, okay? Then, of course, if you want to use the exact files that I used on this tutorial, punta lang kayo dito kay General Resources. Nandito yan, no, sa Blade Runner 2049 Caustic Corridor. You can also use that. Nandun na lahat ng kakailangan nila files nyo, pati na rin yung caustic na map na ginamit ko kanina. Okay? So, with that out of the way, that is the end of our discussion. Move on naman tayo sa briefing ng Activity 9 nyo. Okay. For your Activity 9, ang title ng Activity 9 natin is Still Life Render, no? More or less, this is going to be the hardest activity for this entire term, no? So, be ready na lang kayo, but don't worry, matagal ang deadline nito, no? So, Activity 9, Still Life Render, no? So, bigyan ko na sa inyo instructions. There we go. So, I'm going to be providing a reference, and ang task nyo dito is i-replicate nyo yung scene na yon. You're gonna be replicating the assets. Yun lang naman, no? You're gonna be recreating the assets and the entire camera angle and yung positioning ng mga objects na yon, no? You're gonna be replicating all of that, no? The only thing na magpapadali somewhat dito is materials are optional, no? Hindi nyo kailangan igayahin yung mga materials or yung textures, basically. Hindi nyo siya kailangan gayahin, not unless you want to, no? But let's say you did add materials, no? That's completely fine as well, no? Kapag nag-add kayo ng materials, syempre may incentive ako dyan, bibigyan ko kayo ng plus 5 points automatically sa creativity criteria, no? So, it's an instant boost, no? But, yun nga, do be careful na lang talaga because hindi ibig sabihin nito na maglalagay ka lang ng random na materials, okay na yon, no? Your materials has to be consistent dun sa itsura ng scene nyo. Dapat appropriate siya dun sa scene nyo. Kapag hindi siya masyadong appropriate, unfortunate to say, hindi siya pwedeng magkaroon ng 5 points kasi masyadong exploitative to, no? So you can only get that 5 points if and only if fit siya dun sa scene nyo and sa assets nyo. Maganda bang tingnan o hindi? Kapag nakita kong medyo stretch yung mga textures nyo, that's already a no-go. Walang plus 5 points yun. Dapat maayos ang paglagay ng materials. Guys, we're already at week 9. Dapat, ano na yan? Dapat kabisado nyo na yung kung paano mag-fix ng mga textures, no? Now, using the recreated scene, ang task nyo ngayon na gagawin nyo dito is you're gonna be creating 3 different mood lighting. 3 different renders, basically yan, no? Magkakaiba-iba ang mood lighting yan. So, technically, magkakaiba na lighting setups. 3 different lighting setups, okay? Each render must be different and should showcase a certain mood. Now, this is not limited to, no? Hindi siya limited to these certain moods. Like, for example, daytime, sunset, and evening. Pwede pa yung iba, no? So, yun lang naman yun, no? I-state nyo lang naman yung mood na yan sa rename, sa ano nyo, sa pag-submit nyo ng renders nyo, okay? So, 3 different lighting setups yan, no? 3 different lighting setups, tapos i-render nyo each yun, no? So, 3 renders yun, okay? Then, you're gonna be rendering your scenes using the aspect ratio of your choice, no? So, same lang rin as before, as last activity. Kayo bahala dun sa aspect ratio kung ano yung sa tingin nyo mas babagay dun sa still life na reference ko, yun ang gawin nyo. Okay? Do note, however, yun nga, resolution is still part of your creativity criteria. And the resolution must be the same for all three renders. Dapat, once nakasettle ka na on a certain resolution, yun na yun all throughout your entire renders. No? Sa tatlong renders na yan, dapat pare-pareho ang resolution nyo. Kung 1280 by 720 ang ginawa mo sa isa, dapat ganun din sa lahat. Okay? So, that's it. And what you're going to be doing is submit your renders in Big Sky with the file name, surname underscore act9 dash rendering 3, tapos parentheses, state nyo kung anong mood yung shot na yon. Okay? So like for example, yung first render nyo is going to be, let's say, surname underscore act9 dash rendering 3. Yung unang shot na nilagay mo doon, let's say daytime. Ilagay nyo dito, daytime, no? Hindi state mood here. Baka mamaya, literal copy paste nyo to, no? So, for example yan, surname underscore act9 dash rendering 3, parentheses, daytime, parentheses ulit, no? So, ganun yun, alright? So, with that out of the way, yung reference nyo is this one right here. So, pretty simple lang naman siya, no? It's a pretty simple dito. Ang nagpapahirap lang dito is yung dito, yung pag-simulate nyo ng cloth dito. The rest here, they're super simple, no? Napakadali lang yan. So, I'm gonna be I'm gonna be grading yung how well did you manage to recreate the assets, how well your lighting will be, and of course, yung resolution nyo, no? So, do take note of those things. Good luck on your Activity 9, okay? You can already see yung deadline natin for Activity 9 sa Dropbox natin, no? Okay? So, good luck on your Activity 9. Just follow along with this reference here, and you should be good to go.